David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney Plus. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight, the breaking news as we come on the air, one of President Trump's top counterterrorism officials resigns, saying Iran posed no imminent threat. Also tonight here, the explosive boom, the stunning sight tonight seen in several states, the 7-ton meteor, and you'll see it. Tonight, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center resigning, claiming Iran posed no imminent threat to the U.S. Tonight, President Trump responds. Also tonight here, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad coming under fire again. James Longman in Iraq. And just in tonight, the images, Israeli strikes now hitting Iranian police right in the streets of Tehran, after the major news today that an Israeli strike has killed one of Iran's most powerful surviving leaders. Here in the U.S. tonight, that 7-ton meteor shooting across the sky.
Whoa, what the was that?
The sonic boom heard over multiple states, 6 feet in diameter. The images tonight digging out the major storm across several states and the dangerous winds in the Northeast. Hundreds of thousands without power at this hour. Thousands of flights canceled and delayed. Here in New York City, the winds fueling a major fire in Manhattan. Reports of injuries just as the annual St. Patrick's Day parade was set to begin. Tonight, the wife and mother who wrote a children's book about grief after the death of her husband, now found guilty of killing him. How prosecutors say she did it. The collision on the tracks at Amtrak train filled with passengers and an 18-wheeler. Tonight, just days before March Madness, a star player now under arrest. Tonight, one of the world's most elusive artists, hidden no longer, has Banksy been revealed. Also tonight, a former Syracuse University quarterback dies at just 28 years old. And tributes tonight to the longtime co-host of Showtime at the Apollo.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. We begin tonight with several breaking stories. One incredible sight, that 7-ton meteor across several states in a moment here. But we begin with the war in Iran. President Trump's top counterterrorism official resigning tonight, saying Iran posed, quote, no imminent threat to the U.S. Late today, the president lashing out after Joe Kent, his hand-picked director of the National Counterterrorism Center, quit his post. Tonight, President Trump also furious. NATO allies are refusing to help protect the critical Strait of Hormuz more than 2 weeks after President Trump started the war. And tonight, Iran now confirming its national security chief has been killed in an Israeli airstrike. And a short time ago, the images coming in, flames rising from the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. What we've learned, Iran-backed groups hitting multiple targets. Rachel Scott leading us off here with this high-level resignation tonight and President Trump's response.
Tonight, the administration's top counterterrorism official resigning in protest over President Trump's war with Iran, declaring Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Joe Kent, director of the National Counterterrorism Center, writing, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. It is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Kent accusing Israel of a misinformation campaign to deceive Trump into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States, and that should he strike now, there was a clear path to swift victory. This was a lie. President Trump, who has long supported Kent's political career, despite Kent's controversies and past associations with anti-Semites, today brushing off his resignation.
And I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well.
Today, the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner, saying Joe Kent's record is deeply troubling. But on this point, he is right. There was no credible evidence of an imminent threat from Iran. It comes as the president lashes out at America's NATO allies for refusing his demand to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz, more than 2 weeks after President Trump launched the war himself. Germany declaring it's not our war.
We can't be at every place to support a war which we didn't start it.
From the UK, a similar message. And today, French President Emmanuel Macron
Nous ne sommes pas partie prenante au conflit.
Saying France will never take part in operations to open or liberate the Strait of Hormuz in the current context.
I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake.
After calling for Europe's help, tonight the president saying he doesn't need it after all.
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually.
The president clearly frustrated with our NATO allies, but they have been very clear that this is not their war, saying the president did not consult with them before launching those strikes against Iran. And tomorrow, all eyes will be on Capitol Hill. The president's national security team will be testifying before Congress, and they will certainly face many questions about whether Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States, David.
And you'll be watching that hearing for us, Rachel Scott, tonight. Thank you. This evening, just in, new images of the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad coming under attack again, what we've learned at this hour. And tonight, from inside Iran, you'll see the flames shooting from the streets. Israel now targeting police checkpoints in Tehran. The Israelis say some Iranians are now helping Israel with the targets. And Iran now confirming tonight its national security chief has been killed. All of this as gas prices in the U.S. are up now about 90 cents a gallon since this war began. James Longman from the region again tonight.
Tonight, the dramatic images coming in from Tehran, raging flames in the streets. Videos circulating online show the Israelis turning their focus to local regime targets. The IDF says they've hit dozens of police checkpoints and vehicles in Tehran. An Israeli intelligence source tonight tells ABC News some Iranians themselves are now sharing locations where regime militia are on patrol for the Israelis to strike. This amid a brutal blow to Iran's chain of command. Israel killing Iran's top national security chief, Ali Larijani, calling him the de facto leader of the regime. That same strike also killing the commander of Iran's feared religious militia, the Basij, Gholam Reza Soleimani. That militia behind the bloody crackdown on Iranians in the streets protesting against the regime back in January that left nearly 7,000 dead. Israel's tactic to help Iranians take to the streets again despite enormous danger. And tonight, Iranian proxies targeting the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad yet again, flames rising from the compound. Incredible video shows the moment a massive gun that protects the U.S. Embassy shoots an Iranian drone out of the sky. And with oil prices rising, Iran struck a 17th ship today in the critical Strait of Hormuz. In the U.S., gas prices have risen 90 cents since the start of the war, now averaging $3.84 a gallon. And for only the second time in U.S. history, diesel prices have now hit $5 a gallon. Economists warn this will now have a ripple effect across the U.S. economy.
And these attacks on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad tonight, David, were pretty extraordinary. Flames could be seen inside the embassy compound. U.S. forces are tonight responding here in Iraq against those militia, but Iran is pulling at every lever across this region to target American interests. David.
James Longman and the team inside Iraq tonight as those attacks are underway. James, thank you. Back here in the U.S. tonight and to this incredible sight seen in several states, a 7-ton meteor shooting across the sky. The sonic boom heard over multiple states. The meteor 6 feet in diameter, the ground shaking. Here's Rhiannon Ally tonight.
Tonight, NASA says this bright red fireball streaking through the sky, moving at 40,000 miles per hour and seen from at least 10 states, is a rare daylight meteor crashing into Earth.
Oh, what the was that?
The asteroid bursting through the Earth's atmosphere, sending loud sonic booms, rattling homes from Ohio to Kentucky. The blast so powerful it shook the ground, the rumbling registering on a seismograph.
It was just like a boom, like that.
The meteor seen just before 9 a.m. for barely 5 seconds, traveling more than 34 miles in the upper atmosphere before breaking apart above Medina, Ohio, and seen across the Northeast.
Anybody see or hear what blew up?
Definitely too big for fireworks.
We felt a shockwave. We're not sure what it is, but it was big.
NASA says the meteor, nearly 6 feet in diameter, weighing roughly 7 tons, lit up the sky. It was even spotted by a NOAA satellite in space, unleashing the same amount of energy as 250 tons of TNT.
This thing just broke apart violently, scattered fragments everywhere. And this explosion generated a shock wave or a pressure wave that traveled to the ground. And that's the explosions people saw.
Aisha Jones lives in Maple Heights outside Cleveland and had just put her small children down for a nap when she says her house shook.
I immediately thought that somebody ran into my house or something big had hit the house.
David, NASA says what makes this so uncommon is that it went over a populated area. And while 40,000 miles per hour is really fast for a human, it's actually slow for a meteor. David?
Yeah, it's all perspective. Imagine being one of those drivers today who we heard in that piece, Rhiannon. Thank you. Now to the major storm tonight across several states, the dangerous winds in the Northeast, and of course, continuing chaos at airports. And behind it all, a new blast of cold air moving in from Florida to the Northeast. Freeze warnings tonight. The cold from Florida to the Carolinas, New York to Boston. With hundreds of thousands digging out, thousands of flights canceled and delayed tonight. And here's Gio Benitez.
Tonight, travel trouble on the ground and in the air as the Midwest digs out from a record-breaking blizzard and neighborhoods up and down the East Coast clean up after violent storms. Wind gusts over 70 miles an hour from Florida to the Northeast. Outside Boston, wind tearing apart the scaffolding, leaving it hanging over the roadway in Brockton. Crews in Attleboro had to cut this massive tree into pieces and use a crane to clear it off this home. Just outside Philadelphia, Ryan Keene assessing the damage after this tree fell right on his son's bedroom.
My roofer guy's here to see what damage is done there, and we're going to go from there.
Those winds also knocking out power to more than 500,000 across the region. Meanwhile, the Midwest digging out from record snow after dozens of trucks and cars got stranded for more than a day on Interstate 43 just outside Green Bay. That major interstate finally reopening today. West of Marquette, Michigan, families using snowblowers and shovels trying to dig out 9-foot snow drifts encasing homes. And another 1,000 flights canceled today and more delayed because of weather, with TSA staffing issues at some major airports. The FAA temporarily halting Delta flights to Atlanta this morning after the airline ran out of room to park their planes. United also requesting a ground stop for the same problem overnight in Houston. And David, one more note here about air travel. The CEOs for the major airlines say that the soaring cost of fuel is raising ticket prices. In fact, United fares are already up 15 to 20%. David.
One more example of how this is hitting the consumer tonight. Gio Benitez on this again for us. Gio, thank you. By the way, those winds fueling a major fire in New York City just as the annual St. Patrick's Day parade was set to begin. Here's Aaron Katersky with the pictures tonight.
Oh, my God.
Tonight, 2 people injured after a wind-driven fire on a high-rise rooftop. Clouds of thick, roiling smoke darkening Midtown Manhattan. Firefighters obscured by the blackened haze.
Manhattan, all hands going to work. Fire from a commercial building.
The HVAC system ignited atop a 28-story building at 43rd Street and 5th Avenue just before 10 a.m. as firefighters, police officers, and other marchers were staging nearby for the annual St. Patrick's Day parade. It took dozens of firefighters to extinguish the fire, finally dousing the last of the flames after an hour and a half.
It was a wind-driven event. The units took about 140 fire and EMS personnel to be on scene to take care of the situation.
The building was vacant save for the construction workers, turning it from office space into residential apartments.
It looks like the EMS.
An EMS lieutenant and a police officer suffered smoke inhalation. The damage was contained to the building's roof, David. The cause of the fire is under investigation. David?
Aaron Katersky with us. Thank you, Aaron. In North Georgia tonight, a gunman reportedly killed by police after storming a VA clinic and shooting a worker there. Police responding to the Pickens County Veterans Affairs Clinic in Jasper this afternoon, confronting the suspect outside. Police say officers shot the suspected gunman during the encounter. The shooting victim was then airlifted to a nearby hospital. No word tonight on the victim's condition or a motive. We turn now to a case making national headlines. The wife and mother who wrote a children's book about grief after the death of her husband. She's now been found guilty of killing him and how prosecutors say she did it. Here's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, vindication for the family of Eric Richins after a jury swiftly convicted his wife Kouri of his murder.
Guilty of aggravated murder.
It's been a long time coming, so just very happy that we got justice for my brother.
The Utah mother was accused of poisoning her husband with a fentanyl-laced cocktail. And a month before her arrest, she appeared on TV promoting a children's book she said she wrote to help her kids cope with the grief.
My husband passed away unexpectedly last year. It completely took us all by shock.
Prosecutors say Kouri Richins killed her husband for money because she was deeply in debt and wanted to start a new life with a new man. They showed the jury body camera footage the day of the murder where they claimed Kouri was pretending to cry.
Kouri Richins hides her face because she doesn't know how to react because she is not grieving. She's not grieving because she feels no grief. She just murdered Eric.
They also played this video of Kouri laughing during a celebration of life party the day after the murder. David, Kouri Richins faces 25 years to life in prison. She'll be sentenced May 13th, what would have been her husband's 44th birthday. David.
Trevor Ault with us tonight. Trevor, thank you. Tonight, disturbing allegations against a civil rights icon, Cesar Chavez, the late co-founder of the United Farm Workers. The union now says it will not take part in this month's celebrations honoring Chavez following allegations of possible abuse involving young women and girls. The union says it has no first-hand knowledge of the allegations, calling them, quote, profoundly shocking. Chavez was credited with organizing migrant farm workers starting in California and helping to improve their quality of life. When we come back tonight, the tributes this evening for a well-known name at the Apollo and the former Syracuse University quarterback who has died at just 28 years old. Also ahead, look at this, the collision on the tracks, an Amtrak train filled with passengers and an 18-wheeler. Also tonight, just days before March Madness begins, a star player now under arrest tonight. This evening, one of the world's most elusive artists, has Banksy been revealed? Well, what the artist is now saying tonight about this, we'll be right back. Tonight, the collision involving an Amtrak train and an 18-wheeler just outside Houston. The train traveling from Los Angeles had 100 passengers when it crashed near a rail crossing. The impact knocking that green shipping container from the truck's bed. Authorities say at least 2 people injured. This could have been much worse. Tonight, Alabama men's basketball star Aden Holloway arrested on drug charges just days before the NCAA tournament kicks off. Police arresting Holloway Monday after they reportedly found 2 pounds of marijuana at home in Tuscaloosa. Holloway now out on bond tonight. Alabama's coach saying the team plans to play without Holloway in Friday's game against Hofstra. When we come back here tonight, the tributes this evening for a well-known name at the Apollo. And one of the world's most elusive artists, has Banksy been revealed tonight? What the artist is now saying. To the index of other news tonight, former Syracuse University quarterback Rex Culpepper has died at the age of 28. Culpepper played 30 games for Syracuse between 2017 and 2020. Rex notably overcame cancer at the age of 20 while still part of the team. Tonight, SU releasing a statement saying Rex played football as fierce as he lived life. There's no word yet on a cause of death tonight. Tributes this evening to Kiki Shepard, the longtime co-host of Showtime at the Apollo. For 15 years, Shepard made her mark on the famed talent showcase with her signature style and sense of humor. She shared the Apollo stage with several celebrity co-hosts, including Monique, Steve Harvey, and Sinbad. Relatives tonight sharing that Shepard died from a heart attack on Monday. Kiki Shepard was 74. Tonight, world-famous graffiti artist Banksy has kept the world guessing, of course, for decades. And this evening, a new report claiming to know the artist's identity. A Reuters investigation says Banksy is, quote, beyond dispute, 51-year-old Robin Gunningham from England. The Reuters report says he changed his name in 2008 to David Jones to maintain the mystery. Well, tonight, Banksy's lawyer pushing back, saying the artist, quote, does not accept many of the details in the Reuters report. We'll see. When we come back tonight, America Strong this evening, the father and his 2 daughters, what that dad was about to reveal, and he's standing by right here tonight.
ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, sponsored by Teva in support of the mental health community.
Finally tonight here, America Strong. After 27 years, a police sergeant and his emotional farewell on the radio. Tonight, on this St. Patrick's Day, the bagpipes, the send-off for a beloved police sergeant on his final day. From his fellow officers and his proud daughters. In Ketchikan, Alaska, Sergeant Ty Walker now retiring, ending his final shift with this message from his squad car.
After 27 years of service, I'm signing off for the last time. To my brothers in blue, thank you for standing the line with me. And to the community, it's been my honor to serve you. Every shift I've started with this thought: leave everyone better than you find them. It wasn't always possible, but I did my best. God bless. Stay safe.
And then Sergeant Walker's daughters, Allie and Caitlin, and his 1-year-old granddaughter, Everly, sitting right there too.
Sergeant Walker, for nearly 3 decades, you have shown up for strangers on their worst days.
The community of Ketchikan owes you a great debt, and your family is endlessly proud.
We admire you more than words can express,
and we are so grateful to call you our father.
And right here tonight,
hey David.
After 27 years, Sergeant Walker now officially retired.
Retirement is great. It was an honor to serve my community. I wish you and all those in law enforcement well, especially those at my old department.
And his proud daughters, too.
Hi, David.
Hi, David.
Allie and Caitlin.
There was nowhere else we'd rather be for the man that gave everything he had for a community who didn't always see it.
Showing up for the man that has shown up for countless others was a no-brainer. So it was such an incredible moment, and I am so grateful that I got to be there.
Well, Sergeant Walker, thank you for your service. Your granddaughter's waiting. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America.